Hi again, here we are to talk about CSS, and in the last video we talked about the base font size, right? And what we did is we set our base font size on the body, and then we styled other elements in ems, which makes it a relative size to what you've set on the body, right? So, and we set the font family here, and all the elements inherit that font family, right? And they also inherit this font size, but if we style them in ems, they'll be a multiple of the size. Okay? Okay, so that's really great. What if we want to style the background now? So I want to set some background colors. Like, I think it would be nice if every other section was an alternating color, okay? And that would look good. To do that, we could put a class name or ID names on each of the sections, and that would work too. But actually, let's kind of dig into how CSS selectors work, and maybe we can use some of these to our advantage, right? So the structure of the page right now looks something like this. I have the body tag here, and then a child of the body tag is this first section. So that's this guy, right? Inside this section, the first child is the header, and then after the header, oops, it kind of code hinted me there, right? After the header, there is a section, right? So this header and the next section are siblings, right? They're side by side. They're not nested one within the other. And then after that section, there's another section and another section, and essentially it's sections all the way to the bottom of the page, right? So this is the structure of our page. So we have a child that's an ancestor or parent to everything here. It's the parent to this section, and then this section is the parent for everything else, right? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to say, like, hey, let's get all the sections here and give each one of these a background color, okay? So let's do that. To do that, what we'll do is we'll say section to select all the sections, but then I'm going to use this character here, and this character is the child selector. So when I write a selector rule that looks like this, what I'm saying is every section that's a child of another section, then these rules will apply to you, okay? And since we only have these sections that are children of the section up here, it'll only be these subsections down here. Okay, so let's give it a try. So to set the background color, you can do background -color, and the property names for CSS are always kebab case, right? So they're always lower. All the characters are lowercase, and then there's a hyphen at the word break. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and get a color that's kind of in the ballpark. Is that pretty close? It looks a little too purple, right? Let's see, kind of not quite right, but maybe we can adjust it. Maybe I'll make it kind of like a light blue like this, and that'll do, right? Okay, so let's give it a try. So I saved that, and then when I refresh here, you can see that each section has a background that's blue. Okay, so that looks okay. What if I want to make every other section a different color? So CSS gives us another special like modifier to our selectors, right? There's a whole set of selectors that are called pseudo classes, right? And they always begin with the colon, and there's a few on the list that begin with a double colon, right? And what I want to do is I want to use this one called nth-child. So nth-child lets us pick out an element that's in position, 1, 2, 3, 4, or its number position, right? So if I look here inside this section, the header is the first child. This section is child number 2. Nth-child doesn't. It's 1 indexed, right? It doesn't start on 0, right? So this one would be child number 1. This would be child number 2, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, every section that's a child of another section, let's do nth-child and I'm going to say number 3, let's say, right? And now I'll refresh, and you can see that the Google Pixel 3a gets the gets the color, and then these guys down here don't get the color, right? That's because the header right here is child number 1, this section is child number 2, and then featured is child number 3. And we can kind of confirm that here. Oops, let me get rid of this. This is a problem, right? Okay. So here's our section. This is the first child of section. This is the second child, and then featured is child number 3. Okay. Nth child is a great way to pick out one element out of a list of elements if you know the index of that element, right? Okay. You can also use another format here, and you can actually combine these, right? So let me get rid of those notifications, right? So you can also use this format where you say 2n. So this means like every other or every second element, right? So if I save that and I refresh, you can see now this is the first element, the second element gets the color, the third one doesn't, the fourth one does get the color, and the fifth one doesn't, and then this one gets it, right? So, so we can use 2n. If you want to shift the colors by 1, you can also do +1. So if I say, or -1, right? So I can say 2n plus 1, and now you can see if I refresh, this one will be white, this one will be blue, right? And it's kind of starting on the odd numbers rather than the even numbers, right? I'll just leave it like this, 2n, right? So that's kind of good. So this is like a new selector. They call this a pseudo selector, and this is nth-child, okay? Let's talk about something else here too, right, while we're here. I like the way my page is coming out. I have kind of a problem though, because this white space right here looks a little weird, right? So this is margin that's on the body tag. Anytime you see weird spacing like that, you can try and figure out where it's coming from by using the inspector. So I'm going to get the inspector here. I'll just right click and choose inspect element. If you're in Safari, you'll need to go to preferences and then go to advanced and check the show develop menu in menu bar option, right? If you don't have that on, you don't get this develop menu at the top here, and then it doesn't allow you to use the inspector, right? So here I am inside my page, and I can see all my sections here as children of the body. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the computed styles here, and if I select the body tag, you can see under computed styles it says the page is 1050 pixels wide, 9382.88 pixels tall, and then it says that I have 0 or no padding, no border, but I do have 8 pixels of margin. Okay, so there's 8 pixels of margin around the outside. Margin is always shown in orange, and if I hover over this, you can see the orange here on the outside. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to get rid of that, right? So I'll go back up to my body tag here and say margin of 0, right? Oh, now everything goes up against the edge. So if we look at that, actually let's go look at that thing again. If I'm looking here, you can see that this is kind of like, they call this the box model, and this is how the browser arranges things on the page. And CSS gives us a few properties to work with. We can set the width and height of an element. Usually we don't want to set the width and height unless we really want something to be a specific size. Usually things we want them to expand with the amount of content or fill the space, right? Padding goes inside the box. And then border goes on the outside edge of the box. So if I wanted to draw a line around this, the border would go here, right? And then outside of the border, there's some margin, and margin pushes away from things around you, right? So it pushes you away. I like the way my page is looking, but I don't like the way the text runs right up against the edge of the page, right? So I want the blue area here, which will be in the padded area. Like you'll see the background color inside here and in here. but you won't see the background color outside in the margin area, right? The margin zone. So what I want to do is I want to say all of my sections will have some padding. So I'm going to say section and then child section. Oops, I can't spell here. Right? Each section that's a child of another section, you're going to have a padding of, let's say, 2M. Okay? And then when I refresh, you can see the blue still goes all the way to the edge, but then my text gets pushed away from the edge here, and it should be about 32 pixels, right? Because it's 2 times the font size. So we can inspect and take a look at that, right? What do we got here? Section, 32, right? So that's kind of working out pretty good. Why don't we stop here, and then I'll continue in the next video, but this is getting us kind of started into the ballpark here, and then we'll start talking about some other features and some other font styles and things that we can apply.